Hi students, Cynthia Nitch here, wanting to cover Chapter 6 theory. Chapter 6 has two parts to it, or two sections. Section 1 is about data, information, and databases, and then Section 2 is business intelligence. I'll just be doing a video on this Section 1 for now, and then I'll do a second video on business intelligence. So we start off with data. We talked about this in Chapter 1. But obviously data is everywhere in an organization, and if we successfully collect, compile, and sort, and finally analyze the data, it can provide tremendous insight into how an organization is performing. There's a lot of structured data, like sales data, basically what you're selling, who's selling it, and who's doing well and who isn't, what product's doing well and what product isn't. Human resource data, manufacturing, and then obviously we have unstructured data, right, like tweets and social media and stuff like that. So lots of data for an organization to capture and find some insight. So there's a video that I kind of have here for you. We won't look at it right now, but you can look at it on your own time when you open up the PowerPoint lecture under the module. But it's a really cute video. It's about this guy. He's a grad student at some university, and he actually lives in his office. And he decided to come up with some algorithm to make him look like the perfect date or the perfect guy. And then he went on a bunch of dates with different types of women, and it actually was kind of unsuccessful until he was actually honest with one of the people that he dated, and she actually was impressed that he did that. So it's a cute video if you have time. It kind of explains data in a way that's interesting. Okay, difficulties of managing data. Obviously, there's amount of data is increasing exponentially. I always think like if I'm buying something at a clothes store, I mean, that's sales data. That's kind of like how often do I come in and purchase goods. What about our salespeople? Do other salespeople do better than the other? Stuff like that. And also data is scattered throughout the organization, especially in manufacturing companies, right? Sometimes the manufacturing is not in the United States, but then your headquarters would be in the United States. So it's all spread out everywhere. And how do you manage that? How do you make sure that everything is clean and that it's timely? So there's a lot of things that once we get the data, how do we then make it useful, right? And so the question is, what about data security? What about the quality of the data? And what about the integrity of it? Is it just, do we have it narrowed down so there's not very many mistakes to be made when we're managing the data or we're capturing the data? So on the next couple of slides, it just talks about data type, and there are four primary traits for data. There's data type, right, structured or unstructured. Data timeliness, can we do it in real time? What about the data quality? Are there a lot of missing gaps in there? Are we having redundancy? And then who is doing our data governance? Like who's managing our data? Is that in-house or out-house or outsourced? So those are the questions, and those are the types of data that we, four sections that we really need to think about when we're dealing with data. All right, so the two data types are transactional data and analytical data. And it just, if you were to look at it, it makes sense, right? So transactional data is everything like sales receipts, packing slips, airline tickets, anything that has a transaction between your company and intercompany, or it could be your company and your customers. And this data is collected just to make sure we're on the right path, and we can kind of, make sure that we have record of everything that has been done. But then transactional data leans to analytical data, right? So that we grab all that transactional data and we can make sense of it. And we can do some predictive analysis. Or we can just find out, like, what's the forecast for next year, or next Christmas, or next summer, or what is the forecast of our product actually going out and needing an update. So there's all these kind of analytical data that happens when we capture transaction data. So transaction data kind of is twofold, right? It's just to keep record of things that are happening during the course of the year of the company, and also turns into analytical data so we have more information about how we can make better projections. All right, and then data timeliness. Real-time data is immediate, right, up to date. And then real-time system provides real-time data in response to a request. So there are kind of two things here. I talked about real-time data, I think, in chapter 2. Back in the day, it used to be just batch processing, right? So when you if there was data to be updated in a company, it could take up to 24 hours to refresh that data. But now with real-time data and the dot-com boom and the dot-com bust allowed us to be wired pretty seamlessly so that we could have real-time data options for now. Okay, so then data quality, obviously that kind of works with your database, right? So once you gather that data, you have to put it in a database, and that's depending on what you want to do. Like a simple database is what we're going to do this semester, is Access database from Microsoft. Or you could do a database from, or contract out a database from Amazon Web Service, or Oracle, or something like that. So there's a lot of ways that you can try to, when you capture your data, put it in a database, and then when that database, when you've got to have decided what database you want to use, then the question is, can we get our data consistent, and can we minimize our integrity issues? And we'll go over these again in a little bit. So data quality, this just is kind of like a screenshot of maybe a spreadsheet. And you can see that it easily can disrupt data quality, right? Input can disrupt that. So our job when we do a database is to try to just make it so easy and foolproof that we don't get these little mistakes. But let's just look at them, like missing information. So the last name, but the first name accidentally got deleted or never inputted. Incomplete street here. Check this out. These have parentheses and these don't. They don't have an area code in front of them. Same thing with this. Emails are a little different here, and this is a dupe of the fax number. So a lot of things can happen on this data quality. So that's why you heard of like data scrubbing or data cleansing, is these things have to be corrected before they kind of go into a nice clean database. And there are applications that identify these errors, and then you're able to correct them. Okay, and the last one that we have, right, would be data governance, and that refers to the overall management of the availability, usability, integrity, and security of your database. And so doing so, right, all the things that we have to do, the integrity and security and stuff, it's actually called master data management, okay? And so we have database management systems to help get that correct. So we have so much data, and then we need to go ahead and organize that data, or AKA normalize it, and then we also need to make sure it's secure and accurate. So lots of stuff goes into data governance. All right, so let's talk about data management. So we're, like I said, at the end of this semester, we will be doing, we'll just kind of explore Access database from Microsoft. We'll do about 3 or 4 chapters on it, so you can see what a database looks like and how to manipulate it. But the definition is it maintains data about various types of objects, events, people, places, movies, right? So Netflix is a big database of movies. But anyway, the latest and greatest database type that now we have used for probably over 20 years is called relational database. And it's a lot easier way to manipulate data because you separate the data, and then you can bring data in as you need it, almost like a pivot table in Excel. So a relational database is a collection of information that organizes data in a predefined relationship where data is stored in one or more tables. And I'll show you that in another slide. So this makes it easy for you to manipulate the data, right? And like maybe human resources has the same data as finance, but human resources will use that data differently than finance will use it. But the overall, I guess, achievement is that we can manipulate this data the way we need it or way a department needs it, as opposed to it just kind of being stuck, right? And maybe just a PDF, instead of just using it as database, and we can pull information out easily. Okay, so these are the components of a relational database. So these things I'm going to explain here. So an entity is just the title of kind of your table within a database. So this database, let's just say it's for a plumber or something like that. So this plumber has, like, I live in Chula Vista, so I'll say Eastlake Plumbing. So Eastlake Plumbing has a database. And so they have a database with 3 tables or 3 entities, right? And this table is called the order table. And then this one is the supplier table. And this is the customer table. So back in the day, they didn't used to have these different tables. It used to just be all one database of all one information, right? But they found that if they separated them and gave each table a unique ID, then they can kind of connect them and they wouldn't have to do duplicate values and extra work, which would then almost be maybe like a chance to make mistakes, right? So let me show you something really quick. So here is the table or the entity. So this entity is a supplier. And so you have attributes. The attributes of this supplier table is we want to know the supplier's number, we want to know the supplier's name, and so forth, right? And then the customer table or entity, we want to know the attributes of the customer's number, customer's name, and so forth. And then at the very end, when we finish that one row, that's called a record, okay? So this, in a sense, is a non-normalized relation table, right? So if J. Smith had ordered these things, we would actually have to type in J. Smith 4 times, right? And then his address 4 times. And then maybe not his customer number would exist, or maybe it would, and we'd have to put that. So you can see a non-normalized spreadsheet can be cumbersome and you can make a lot of mistakes, right? So if you were to type in AAA Automotive once, but what if you were to type in all these? Maybe you would accidentally skip an A or do another A. So that makes things, your data inconsistent, right? So if you only have to type in AAA Automotive once, you probably could get it right, and you put their address, and everything is kind of nice and neat, and it's all identified by a supplier number 15. So let me explain this to you as well. So the first column in any table is usually a primary key, which means that number 11 is true to this order and only this order forever, okay? And AAA will always be the supplier 15. There can never be another supplier number 15. So it's almost like it's called a primary key or a unique identifier. So your student ID at San Diego State is a unique identifier. Your social security number is a unique identifier. No one else supposedly should have that that number, right? And so that's how this works, and this is how it connects. So I'll show you, I think on the other one, I'll show you the connection. So there's that primary key thing I was telling you about. So the primary key is a unique field, but you can actually put a primary key within another table, and then this would connect the 2 tables together. So I'll show that to you. So here's a table, and it's in a relationship window just to show you the relationship between the tables. So this table has a location with location name, address, state, zip code, and office phone number. So the location ID is here, and so there's one of them, right? It's unique. but I can put the location ID in my employee table as well and gather those numbers, right? And then this title ID is inside the employee table, and the employee ID 1 is in the table, just can't see it. So that's how they connect you. That's why that's called a relational database, is because you create a common field between these two, and then you can see them on both tables. Pretty simple, but ingenious. Okay, so why they created relational databases for businesses are these advantages, right? So let's go through each advantage. So it increases flexibility. It's almost like, if you're familiar with pivot tables in Excel, you can kind of move, like I can grab one column of data and throw it over here and then add 2 more columns of data from some other table. So you can quickly and easily manipulate the data, and it'll provide users with different views, right? And you can do charts and stuff like that. Have multiple logical views, focus on how individual user logically access the data. So, and then there's scalability on databases as well. This happens in big databases when you're paying a lot of money for someone to store your information. Scalability, if you're a small business, you hope that you go into like asking Oracle to be your database, that Oracle will only charge you for the amount that you use and not the amount that you hope to use, right? So it makes it more affordable. A lot of companies won't hold their own databases. They'll actually contract that out. And performance measures how quickly a system performs a certain process or transaction. So you definitely want a company that can handle your scalability. If you're a large company, it's not too much of a worry. If you're a smaller company, you can kind of go to a smaller company that holds databases. And then data redundancy, we kind of talked about that quickly when you looked at that non-normalized table. You'll notice that you'd have to like constantly type in everyone's name, and you probably get it wrong. And then it just like, you could have data redundancy where you try to put your someone's birth date in one and you do it wrong, and then the other one it's correct, and then it just becomes a big mess, right? So you need to make sure that you have one place that you put that one customer name, and then everybody can point to that customer name as opposed to retyping that name. So data integrity measures the quality of data, and then integrity constraint rules that help ensure the quality of the data. So you'll see this, we'll do those constraints in Access, and one of the easiest constraints are like, you can only give a 25% discount, or you can only accept one letter and not, for example, like male, female, if you put, an M and an F, and that's it. So that means that they can just, they're not going to mess around and type the whole name out, M-A-L-E or F-E-M-A-L-E. So you just say, I'm only allowing one digit. Like I guess the years, right? You could say, I just want the last 2 digits of a year, or I want all 4 digits of a year. So you can decide how narrow you want the input in for someone that is actually filling it out. And also you can put other critical integrity constraints. For example, enforce a company's rules, for a company code, a constraint that prevents a checkout counter from giving a customer a discount greater than 25%. So, and it'll just say, it'll flag it, right? If you were to put 52% on accident, it wouldn't let you do it. So that's pretty cool on that integrity, and you'll see how that works on Access. It's super simple. And then increased data security. This is a big one, right? So passwords provides authentication, access level. Sometimes you share your database with a partner, maybe a manufacturing partner, so they can see the levels of what you need for the upcoming season or something. So you can let them into your database, but it's only at a certain level. So that's actually really good. All right, that's it for that part 1, and then I'll do another video on business intelligence. Thank you.